Just looking at some of the other fundamentals now, taking you back to the very beginning, Gimba asked you how you saw whether or not this budget was going to pass smoothly. We've seen before now how budgets will be presented, and then we begin to see some controversy over rats eating the budget or rats taking the budget away from the National Assembly. How much of a controversy do you think this 2018 budget will go through before it eventually gets serious consideration by the National Assembly? Do you see any hitches?
Well, I try not to be pessimistic, but I suspect that this particular budget passage will be a rather challenging one. The very first time the issue of the president coming to present the budget to the National Assembly was tabled in the House, you know, there was this significant uproar by members, and we later got to find out that a lot of the concerns or the agitation on the part of the lawmakers was centered around their constituency projects, was centered around some difficulties and challenges they've been having with the executive with regard to certain people who have been nominated to certain positions. So my sense is that there is still an underlying tension. I think that in the interest of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria, it is important that these two important arms of government have a sit down, have a meeting of minds. But having said that, we also expect on behalf of the people of Nigeria that the National Assembly will actually scrutinize the budget 2018. First of all, by looking at the 2017 performance and calling the ministries, departments, and agencies to task. You know, the president talked about significant under-remittance of surpluses by state-owned enterprises. It is totally unacceptable. These are agencies of government, owned by government, supervised by government. So we cannot say we have a shortfall in funding our budgets when certain entities of government are sitting on hundreds of billions, possibly trillions of naira. So there is a need for a significant rethink in that regard.
There's a major question in that regard because, you know, we're operating the TSA now, the Treasury Single Account, and we've seen an improved remittance by some ministries, departments, and agencies. So there will be questions in that regard. But considering the fact that the president also talked about how there was a shortfall of non-oil revenue for the 2017 budget, and we're predicating almost 60% of funding this budget on non-oil revenue, how optimistic are you that we'll be able to meet the targets for 2018?
Thank you very much, Malkwe. I think it is critical, and you know, a budget is is essentially a statement of intent. So it is one thing to present a budget, it is another to deliver on the contents of that budget. So if you go by the 2017 example, where there was a 74% shortfall in the non-oil revenue expectation. So the question government should ask themselves is, let us interrogate the reasons behind this shortfall. Why were we not able to meet our prorated target of 605 billion naira as at now, or maybe as at end of October? So the question is, what are the drivers of non-oil revenue? They are the other players within the Nigerian economy. So the question then is, the real economy, the SMEs that are the greatest contributors to GDP and the greatest employers of labor, how have they fared in the last 1 year? So my sense is that they continue to struggle with access to finance, they continue to struggle with the significant infrastructure deficits that we have, they continue to struggle with government policies that are not always consistent. Now, basically, I agree that significant progress has been made in some sectors of the economy, the ease of doing business and the like. But generally, it is still a significant challenge for operators in the Nigerian economy, particularly in the private sector, to thrive. And it is unless they thrive that you will start to see increased revenue accruing to government from the non-oil sector. So my sense is government has to retweak a lot of things. The cost of governance is still too high. for the third straight year, government is keeping capital expenditure at 30%. I would have liked to see an incremental increase in capital expenditure followed by a concomitant decrease in recurrent expenditure. Recurrent at 3.5 trillion naira is very high. Debt service at 1.7 trillion, very high. Put the two together, that is 63% of our budget. So it shows that fundamentally there is a major restructuring and surgical operation required before you can get the real sector, the non-oil sector, to thrive.
You already talked about pressure, you know, this budget, there is some friction going to be created by the pressure that the government itself has, you know, by its intent, the intent to run a January to December budget, you know, coming in with this 2018 budget now, especially with the, should we say, late presentation, somewhat late presentation of the budget considering their intent. But what is the importance? Because some people have said it doesn't really matter. What is the importance of running a January to December budget?
Well, the importance is really clarity. You know, it is a lot easier to track when you present to the Nigerian people a finite budget period. What has been happening over the last couple of years is that the budget for 1 year will spill over into the second year. At some point, there will be some consolidation of current and future years' budget. And the more you start to see those kind of situations play out, the greater the opacity. Nigerians want clarity. So right now, there is a conversation that the 2017 budget, 60% of it will be rolled over into 2018. Now, what exactly does that mean?